What's so special about water? It's just something we drink, bathe in, and cook with, right? Well, yes, and in this video, we'll remember the magical and artistical powers of water we've always known, but chose to forget. This information today may change something in you that can't be unchanged. So you may want to calm the chattering monkey in your mind so you can listen from your heart. This is big. Hello, I'm Marvin Glenn, the Singing Sage. A friend of ours recently called our attention to a video from which I learned this amazing information. Veda Austin, who authored a magnificent book called The Hidden Intelligence of Water, was sharing her findings on water with Andre Ducombe on his podcast called Know Thyself. I've given you links to her book in the description below. The reason I'm offering you this information about water is because I've been profoundly enlightened by that video. Like most people, I knew water is the basis of life on Earth and that we can't live without it, but I never considered it as something with an intelligence and memory of its own, with a life of its own, or with an imagination and creative ability that matches ours. Let's start with some questions. Why is water in every creation story? Why is water talked about so much in virtually every religion? Why can water be holy? Why is water mentioned 722 times in the Bible, more than faith, love, and worship? What secrets has water been holding for a very long time? In many ancient cultures, there's been a tradition of honoring and respecting water as something sacred. So sacred, in fact, that it's long been considered divine. There's not an aspect of life that water doesn't touch. Like anything in life, we can look at water from many different perspectives, like the philosophical, the biological, the environmental, even the mystical. We take it for granted. We forget to drink it, and we certainly don't usually consider it as something that's got its own intelligence. But here's the surprising part. If we count the amount of water molecules in our body, we find that there are more of them in us than there are stars in the known universe. Not by volume, but by molecular count. Looking at water from that perspective, science now acknowledges that our bodies are 99.9% water. Here's something I bet you, like me, have never considered. Water is the study of self. It's the study of spirit. And the study of water is also the study of the divine. When we start seeing water as something divine, we can start seeing ourselves also as something divine. This is where things become really fascinating. Water responds to our conscious expressions and to our emotions. Believe it or not, water can actually talk to us through pictures. Our thoughts and emotions can be crystallized in ice, which we can photograph. Here's another surprise. Water can ignore what we're thinking and show us what we're feeling. Water can take concepts that can't be described and turn them into pictures called hydroglyphs. Take the concept of ego, for example. Here's what water came up with to depict the concept of ego. It's a weird-looking body topped by a distorted head. Would you have predicted water could represent ego like this? I know I wouldn't have. How about this picture water created for the concept of grief? Here it designed a picture of a person with holes inside them. Amazingly and accurately perceptive. Wait till you see what's next.
What you've seen here is water memory. You can do this experiment yourself just by showing an image to water for around 30 seconds and then freezing the water, and you will see a reflection of the image you showed it. This proves that water holds memory. It has consciousness. This is because water can change its structure depending on the vibrations it comes into contact with. This is where things start to get a bit crazy with words. Placing the word schizophrenia in water and then freezing freezing it shows this image of a double-faced person. This proves that water is intelligent and is reacting to vibrations of the words. Now that you understand this concept, what do you think happens when you are drinking Monster Energy, or with cans which imprinted the word of death? You are drinking crystallized water with the imprinted vibration of death. You are filling 70% of your body, which is water, with the vibration of death. Water is basically the internet of the earth. It has consciousness and intelligence. This is why you should never place your car keys or your phone next to your water.
There's a stage of water between solid and frozen in which it appears to be more like a plasma. It's called the fourth stage of water. That stage is actually H3O2. It has an extra hydrogen and an extra oxygen molecule. Here's why that's important. The two hydrogen molecules in water are feminine and represent levity, while the oxygen molecule is masculine and represents gravity. And together, they create harmony in liquid water on Earth. A couple of examples of fourth stage water are aloe vera and egg whites. It's stretchy, it absorbs some more light, and it has a negative charge. We find fourth stage water in the stage between liquid and solid, and also in the melting stage. Veda was curious about when fourth stage water formed, so she photographed water at just the right time after taking it out of her freezer. At this point, you might be wondering why this matters. Well, as you see in this picture of the three stages, the middle one is how fourth stage water appears. Light paves the way for the design of the imagery. Because water is only one part matter, hydrogen and oxygen combined, and the rest is photonic light, it literally makes water a lighthouse. Here are two pictures Veda took of fruit seeds. In the picture of the sunflower, the left one is of the seed itself. The middle picture is the plasma stage which water presented as the sunflower the seed would eventually produce. This picture is of a flax seed, and the plasma stage again represents the goal of the seed. In her experiment with an apple seed, she let it thaw out and refroze it 3 days later, and the apple image was still there. Then she repeated the process and refroze it 7 days later. Each time, the image of the apple continued to appear. This proves that water has memory. There's one more thing you need to know before we go on. It's a word that's new to most of us, pareidolia. It means the tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningful image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern. Pareidolia is the way of thinking that causes many scientists to dismiss Veda's work as fantasy. But as you probably realize, the unproven theories of the whole scientific field are being exposed and questioned now. So what does this really mean? It means the arrogant and rigid attitudes of many scientists are quietly shifting, and many of them are starting to admit, if only in private, that they feel the foundations of their world crumbling beneath their feet. Of course, to many of us, these changes seem far overdue. Let's take this a step further. There are many ways that water shares information. First, a repeatable signature pattern that allows us to see the type of water it is. For example, here's spring water frozen within half an hour of its collection from a spring. It forms a six-pointed star with ferns off each leg that form a hexagonal pattern. Filtered water has a lot of compacted lines that are stuck together, so water can be identified according to the patterns it displays. But here's the catch. There are people who propose that molecular chaos hypothesis as the reason they can't imagine that water is intelligent. It comes from the assumption that the velocities of colliding particles are uncorrelated and independent of position. It means that hydrogen bonds are breaking and you can see it's chaotic, so therefore water couldn't possibly have memory. But here's a helpful twist. A quantum physicist would remind us that there is a difference between chaos and excitement. What we're seeing here in water is more of a molecular excitement, where water gets excited about something or by an observer. There is a real dynamic connection between the conscious observer and water, which is the observed or receiver. Here's an interesting story showing what this means. There is a lady who watches bees, and she's been doing it a long time. One day, one of the bees communicated to her that they didn't mind her looking at the hive, but it asked her to not look at it for so long because her conscious expression was putting too much light into the hive, and the bees preferred it to be darker. Here's something else we usually forget. When we're working with water, we're also working with light and frequency, and each person has their own frequency. Water is a receiver, and when it's given the right environment, it can give back that information as a picture. Are you ready for an amazing story with pictures? Here's one about how water can create someone's portrait. People often ask Veda if water can create a graphic of someone. So she experimented. She put a dish of water on top of a lady's photo, then froze the water, and sure enough, her face appeared. Then she took the hydroglyph, the ice image, printed out a picture of it, and used that as the influence. Water then designed a negative of the face. But that's only half the story. Surprisingly, water is not only able to create a graphic in a positive form, but it can also repeat the same image in negative form, like a negative photograph. How about this? If Veda put water on top of a box in her fridge with the word pizza written on it, water would design a pizza. So from that, she learned how to affect water's behavior. So next, she put a dish of water on top of a wedding invitation where the main word was marriage, and water showed a wedding ring. Here's another shocking revolution for music lovers. Water responds to music. One day, Veda's son came to her and told his mom that he thinks water hates him. She asked him why he thought that. He said, well, look, water only likes classical music and John Lennon, and it hates heavy metal. Then he said that water also doesn't like swearing, or that he swears sometimes when his mom doesn't know about it, and he likes using the F word, so water must hate me, he complained. Veda replied, my baby, water is not in judgment. Water doesn't judge us. I think if we're serious about maintaining our health, we might benefit from contemplating these two images. Here's an image of crystallized water after being subjected to the beautiful blue Danube waltz. Now here's what water shows after hearing heavy metal music. Personally, I want the water in my body to be harmonious instead of fractured, because my body will manifest that harmony or that disharmony. The next thing Veda did was an experiment with water and music. They played the song All Eyes on Me, and from water they got this picture of an eye. Then they played the song House of the Rising Sun several times to water. Here are the pictures of water's creations. Then there's this ice image that water made of a baby shark. When many different kinds of songs are played, water picks up on the words in the songs. Here's what water did with the song Stairway to Heaven. For this graphic, the song was played several times and water repeatedly presented different versions of a stairway over and over again. As a parenthetical note here, Veda says that it's not true that if you leave water over a word or image, for example, for 4 days, that it's going to imprint it stronger. That's because when your conscious expression is removed from the equation, water simply goes back to whatever it was doing. That seems very important to me somehow because it's the relationship that we have with water that affects it. Being in right relationship with water is probably vitally important because water reflects our emotions back to us. If we're angry or resentful much of the time, we can expect our water-filled bodies to be negatively affected by those emotions and manifest them as sickness. This might seem obvious, but there's even more to it. Fascinatingly, Veda learned that even if she used printed words from different languages that have the same meaning, water presented the identical hieroglyph for each one. That seems to imply that water could possibly be used to decipher the many ancient languages we still haven't been able to translate. Just wait until you see what's next. Here's the pattern of spring water, which appears as a beautiful hexagon. Spring water that's been moving through the earth is sensitive to light, and especially artificial light, much like humans are affected by it. So Veda loves to collect her own spring water, as do Sarah and I. We live only 20 minutes from Mount Shasta, so we collect our drinking water from where it exits straight out of the mountain. And we drink this wonderful water from a large porcelain vessel in our kitchen. Veda collects her water in blue glass bottles, or a Myron glass bottle, which is actually a violet-colored glass, because Myron glass creates a force field around the water. That force field protects not only the structure of water, but also forms a kind of shield against information. So that makes it good for traveling through airports and EMF environments. Here's a shock for those of us who buy our water at the store. The water we buy in the store has gone through a process that alters it so it won't grow algae. And of course, that process reduces the positive benefits natural water provides. Also, we never buy water that's been shipped or stored in plastic bottles. The petroleum used to create the bottles leaches into the water and actually makes it unfit for human consumption. In Veda's work, the hieroglyphs of different human emotions all present images of various hexagons. Now, that doesn't surprise you this well. It's another amazing fact about our relationship with water. Our faces are designed in such a way that when we cry in sorrow and also in joy, tears come from out of our eye ducts, flow down the sides of our cheeks, and then turn back to our mouths, because they've been restructured to either heal our heart or to expand our heart further. Let me ask you this. If you were water and only water, how would you be? Veda was asked that question and she replied, it means you'd become transparent, you'd become less judgmental, and you would flow and forgive. Have you ever noticed how, if given enough time, water can cause a rock to completely disappear? We have emotions, and here's an example showing how responsive water is to our emotions. There was a day when Veda was feeling genuinely sad while she was working on a project with one of her clients relating to flowers. For the whole day, water never showed her one single flower. Instead, it only showed her sad faces. To her, it was obviously reflecting her emotional state. Veda relates that sometimes water shows her beautiful reflections of herself, but when she looks into the mirror, she doesn't always see that beauty in herself. I know that so many of us are the same way. We can be wonderful toward other people, but we find it difficult to be loving and accepting of ourselves. There's an important lesson here. It seems water doesn't focus on the things in us we don't like about ourselves. Water prefers to see only the love in us. Now, here's an amazing insight. Have you ever wondered how intuition works? It seems that water plays a major role in that too. As we breathe, we put water from our bodies into the air. That water serves as an antenna that receives information from other waters in people and plants and animals. People who are sensitive can pick up information this way. Being in right relationship with all forms of water in ourselves, in animals, and in the air, and in other people, helps us see all of creation as something we're united with. Then our feelings of being separate can begin to fade and disappear. I know we look in the mirror and we see this body and it seems like we're separate from others, but The water in our bodies has come through the trees and the clouds and the dinosaurs and our ancestors. Then we drink it and it becomes us. Isn't that wild to think about? We eat food filled with water, like fruit. All of our food contains water. It all becomes us when we eat and drink. Through water, we are united with all of it. We literally are everything. Here's a question. What happens when we lose electrical power and water where we live can't be pumped into our home? It's astounding how much we take water for granted, isn't it? Here's a story that shows that water can help us see the future. Hydromancing, romancing water, has happened many times in Veda's work. For example, putting her thumb into water and it designed the amazing image you see here of the lines on her knuckle and the nail. And notice something else. Water also created a chip in her nail that wasn't actually there at the time. 3 hours later, though, she chipped her nail. So water predicted that her nail was going to get chipped. The big question I think most of us are asking these days is, what can we do to bring water back into its natural, pure state? What can we do to make a difference? Veda has been working with some autistic, non-speaking children, and she asked them that question. They told her that we could ask to be a vessel for Source to flow through so the waters can receive that information from Source, to open ourselves up so Source can give the water everything it needs. Now here's the important part. We humans have become so focused on being practical and physically minded that we have forgotten our own powers of creation to affect the world around us. For example, if you take a glass of unstructured tap water with all its impurities and lovingly hold it to your heart for 1 minute and then refreeze it, you will see massive structural changes showing up as ferns and flowers. Is it possible we don't give water enough credit? If water is a sentient being, why would we think it couldn't shift? Perhaps water doesn't want to flood the land, but it wants to flood the hearts of people. What if people would come together as a collective and consciously help heal the bodies of water that we have? Here's something novel to consider. Water is the unifying energy between all of us and all life. Water has lived in everything living on this planet for a very long time and has moved through rainforests, through Jesus, and all the great sages of time. Water is not limited to time, space, or distance. How do you feel me? It's water speaking to water. How can we know our child is sad or something has happened and we just have this feeling that something's wrong and then we call them and find out we were right? Or we think of somebody and they call us. It's water calling to water. Here's something new you can try. Have you ever drunk water with intention? Have you ever considered water as a living thing and related to it as something sacred? I know I often speak to water now and thank it for nourishing me. I spend a few moments holding it against my heart and consciously put my intention into it. Because after learning more about water, I'm finally more aware of its magical life-giving properties. What about this possibility? What if water is the way our infinite Source intimately expresses its own consciousness through us and through every living thing, so it can observe itself from every different perspective? I don't know about you, but as for me, I'm starting to suspect that water is the intimate expression of the Prime Creator itself, throughout and within all of creation everywhere. So water for me is the way God loves us as us. So what does all this mean for us? Let's stop for a moment and consider what we remembered today. If water makes up most of our bodies, and if nothing biological living on Earth can live without water, and if we find water in every part of the universe, are we ready for the conclusion these facts imply? Could it be true that we are actually God in the flesh? Thank you for spending some time with me today. I hope you've enjoyed remembering water as much as I have. If you've been looking and longing lately for answers to life's most important questions, I recommend you watch this video while you listen with your heart. Our song for today is Forever Yours.
The time has come for you to hear the words I long to say. No longer shy, with open heart I seize the day. With joy sublime I come to you and offer all my love. Forever yours and yours alone am I. In the moment first I saw you before me, a silent longing deep within me came alive, because this longing in my soul became a passion beyond control. I say these words now, forever behind us now, we leave the years of waiting long, so long, for love to come and fill our days with its song. Now I see